Hello everyone and welcome to week 14 of English 120. This week we're going to work on drafting and editing your paper. You're going to be doing a lesson on MLA proficiency in your comp class, and this is your last unit in your comp class, and you're going to be doing a peer review. For your readings, you'll be reading about editing in chapter 17 of the Bedford Researcher. You'll also be reviewing the peer review checklist, and you'll be reading chapter 21 of the Bedford Researcher as part of the MLA proficiency unit in your comp class. You'll have two assignments. You'll complete the comp class MLA document format proficiency unit and test. You'll also conduct a peer review as part of the peer review workshop. It's a discussion forum, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that in the lecture. So just quickly, I wanted to review a little bit more about drafting. I spoke briefly about this last week, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail. This is from chapter 14 of the Bedford Researcher. One of the things that's really important when you write a research paper is to think at the paragraph level. You really need to develop effective paragraphs. And you do so by, in each paragraph, you want to focus on a central idea or issue. Each paragraph that you write should follow some sort of an organizational pattern. And it should use logos and pathos to capture your reader's attention and make your point. Now remember that logos is the use of statistical facts, and pathos is when you put a human face on a topic. You want to use sources to strengthen your argument. You do that by the people that you use, the experts who have given the information that you're quoting will strengthen your argument because they're experts in their field. And you want to create a flow in your paper by using transitions. Words such as however, for example, as a result, in addition to, and furthermore, those are all transitional phrases or words. And there's a whole list of them on page 236 in the Bedford Researcher. Between each paragraph, you need to introduce the new topic, but also relate it to what you were just talking about in the paragraph before. If you do so, it'll really create a flow from one paragraph to another in your paper. Now, there's two really special paragraphs you need to think about in your research paper. That's the introduction and the conclusion. Your introduction really sets the framework for how your readers are going to understand how you're going to be contributing to the conversation about your issue or topic. You want to look at some strategies for how to really format and go about structuring your introduction. And there's several strategies found on pages 238 and 239 of the Bedford Researcher. You also want to make your paper easy to follow, and you do so by providing a map to the main points or the subtopics that you're going to be talking about in your paper. You need to include that as part of your introduction. You also need to make sure in your introduction you've stated your thesis statement. Generally, this occurs as the last line of your introduction. When you're drafting your conclusion, you're going to be reinforcing your message and sharing your final thoughts about the issue and your purpose for writing your paper. In your conclusion, which is usually the last paragraph of your paper, you want to restate your thesis and show us how you've proven it in your paper. You want to also take it to a higher level. Use one of the strategies found on pages 242 to 244 to make to really clearly tell us your purpose in writing this paper and how your issue or what the research you've done relates to a larger purpose, a larger thing, our culture, society. Think bigger so that when the reader finishes reading your paper, they leave with a real insight into something larger. Just a quick review about chapter 15, which was using sources effectively. Sources will help you introduce ideas, provide evidence to support your points, provide examples, and amplify any point that you're making in your paper. Now, any body paragraph that you're writing in your paper will require you to use sources, and they can appear as quotations, paraphrase passages, or summaries, or just as numerical information such as statistics. Anytime a source appears, you must cite that source. How to use them effectively? You can use them to introduce an idea or an argument. You can use them to contrast ideas or arguments. You can use them to provide evidence for your argument or align your argument with the authority, or just to clarify a point you're making or provide an example. So how do you use them effectively? You need to first and always identify your source. I talked a little bit about attributions last week. I wanted to go into a little more detail. Whenever you use the source, you need to introduce that source with an attribution, such as Pamela Koch argues. The word argues is an attribution. Pamela Koch is the person who you're going to be quoting. By saying Pamela Koch argues, you really you introduce who is going to be speaking, and you introduce how that person is going to be speaking. You also need to provide a context. After the quotation, tell us what exactly is Pamela Koch saying about education, and how does it relate to your topic? On page 252, there's a list of all the attributions. I also provided them in the slide deck last week. But you really need to make sure that whenever you have a quotation, and you will be having a lot of these in your paper, that you use an attribution and you use an in-text citation. So after your quotation, after the quotes end, then you see where the green number 22 is. That is the page number where this quotation came from. Now, normally, if we hadn't said Pamela Koch argues, you would also, this parenthetical would also have Koch 22, because Koch is the last name of the author. You want to quote strategically throughout your paper and choose your quotes wisely. Don't just make a patchwork quilt of quotations as your research paper. Only quote when the quotation helps your paper. Remember, you always have the first and last word in every single paragraph. You can use a partial quotation, a complete quotation, or a block quotation. Partial quotations only use part of a sentence, or as little as 1 or 2 words. All of the words that are not your words need to be in quotation marks. And at the end of the sentence, the source information is included, last name and page number. You want to, for complete quotations, which is usually 1 or more sentences, everything that is a quote needs to be in quotations. And at the end of the quotations, you include the last name and the page number before the period. Block quotations are extended quotations. They're usually more than 4 typed lines of text, and they're indented by 1 inch from the left-hand margin. There are no quotation marks around block quotations, and you need to also cite the source for a block quotation. This appears the same way as every other citation, with last name and a page number. Couple of tips on punctuating quotations correctly, because this is a common error. You want to use double quotation marks around partial or complete quotations, and do not use quotation marks on block quotations. You want to use single quotation marks to indicate quoted material within a quotation. When citation information is provided after a quotation, place the punctuation mark, the comma, period, or question mark after the parenthetical citation. And use 3 spaced periods or ellipses to indicate an omission within a sentence, but never at the beginning or ending of a quotation. So here's some examples of how to cite your sources. Whenever you refer to a source in any way as you write your paper, you need to cite that source using MLA format. Chapter 21, which you're reviewing this week, will provide an in-depth look at in-text citations and the works cited page. After your quotation or paraphrase or summary, you should list the last name and the page number, as I have here. London is the last name of Jack London, and 238 indicates the page number where my quotation is from. Then, at the end of your document, in a works cited page, you list all of the works that you cited in alphabetical order. So, if I were going to cite the full source for the Valley of the Moon book, the one that we're going to be talking about a little bit next week as a possible extra credit assignment for those who are looking for extra credit, you list the last name, first name, London, Jack, and then a period. The title of the book in italics or underlined. Novels, any book over 80 pages is underlined or italicized. The Valley of the Moon, period. The place of publication, Berkeley, then colon, and then the publisher, University of California Press, comma, the date of publication, 1999. So, what you're going to be doing this week is something called the peer review worksheet. The peer review workshop. This must be completed by it's actually 5:20. You're going to be choosing one peer to peer review your paper during the week. The first step is you're going to visit the peer review workshop and post your paper as an attachment to your post. Feel free to write a note to your peer if you have any questions for them. Step 2 is you're going to review the list of peers who have posted their paper already and choose one peer's post to respond to. You are only required to review one peer's paper, but you are required to review one peer's paper, and you will not get credit if you do not review a peer's paper. Step 3. Once you respond to the post, download your peer's paper and fill out the peer editing checklist listed under content for week 13, I think 14, sorry. Email the filled out peer review checklist and an edited version of their paper to the peer by the end of the week. Step 5. In order to receive full credit for this assignment, you will also need to turn in the peer review that you completed to the peer review assignment, which is listed under this week's content by 5:20. Please revise your paper based on your peer review. All right, so next week is week 15, and next week we'll be reading chapter 17 in the Bedford Researcher. We'll be doing a self-review. All your comp class units will be due, and you'll be taking a comp class exit exam. All right, guys, I'll see you online. As always, please stop by my office hours on Wednesday from 4:30 to 6:30 if you have any questions.